I thought Sam.
Do you need a
That's okay.
plug?
No, I got it.
Dave's calling.
Okay.
You ready, Sam?
This table came through there too. Did you want to-
No, that's fine.
That's okay.
Need to drop that screen down, John. John, that screen needs to come down.
You ready? Okay. I'd like to call to order the November 1st regularly scheduled Township Trustee meeting.
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney? Here. Mr. Haddad?
Here.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Simcoe? Here.
And for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did everyone get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from October 18th and the special meeting of October 27th? And were there any changes or corrections?
I didn't get to see him, because I can't get on. My computer's locked out again, but that's all right.
I don't have any changes.
Do you want to...
It's fine. We can go.
I'd like to offer a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
18th and the 27th.
Yes.
Second. Mr. Mahoney. Okay, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Gentleman?
Yes. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Mr. Zeitler? Okay. Hearing of the public on specific agenda items? Penny Levine?
My password expired again. Told you it was going to happen.
Penny Levine, 3753 Her Road. First, I'd like to address a couple of issues as a taxpayer and resident of the township. It's been ongoing.
These are specific agenda items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. First, it's unfair about the hearing of the public on agenda items coming prior to any trustee discussion in front of the public or limited information on the website, especially when additions are made to the agenda once the meeting has been called to order. This gives an appearance of an advantage to the trustees and a disadvantage to the citizens who would like to have input and voice their concerns. My second is the increase of the township health care that's on the agenda. Is that a 30% increase?
I believe we're going to be addressing it, today.
Okay. It concerns me that the township health care or any township liability insurance with the present company, Highland, or any symbiotic relationship that could possibly give an appearance or possible conflict or probable conflict or possible conflict of interest due to a sitting trustee's employer or position, invested interest, or whose spouse is employed with the company. This poses a possible personal financial gain, especially with the family member or spouse living with our elected officials. The health insurance raises possible ethical violations under the Ohio Ethics Commission, and I urge you to consider any necessary changes that alleviate the question of unethical practices in relationship to township business through insurance, any zoning decisions, land transfers, title work, and agency land holdings that could possibly raise questions of unethical practice. Okay? Thanks.
Well, I would like to address one of those aspects, Ms. Levine. My wife does work there. I made that very public. And one of the trustees has gone and made a complaint to the prosecutor. And I spoke to the prosecutor even before we went into this, and there is no conflict of interest, and I abstained from voting from it. And I'm offended that you would accuse me of that, or even accuse me of having a conflict of interest. We certainly went through every length possible to make sure that there was not a conflict of interest, and, if you had a question, you certainly can call the prosecutor and see what they found out, because when I called him last week, seeing the chatter online, I again asked him, is there an issue? And he said, Mr. Genowine, this has been beaten like a dead horse. So I'm fairly strong in my saying that there is no conflict of interest there, and I'd like to leave it at that.
Is there any personal gain, especially in relationship to yesterday's paper, on an issue such as with Mayor Bell?
What are you implying?
John, if I could say something,
Yes.
I deal with these all the time in my business. I think your wife has to have a financial stake in the firm. Does your wife have a financial stake in the firm?
No.
Okay.
According to Ohio Elections Commission, it has to be personal gain.
I'm telling you, I know for a fact, I deal with this every day in my business. I'm telling you, if your wife doesn't have a financial gain in the company, she has over 15% ownership, she has 0% ownership, then we've got issues, so let's move on.
Okay. Zoning department?
At this point, there's nothing on the agenda for zoning, and they do not have their monthly report this time, so there's nothing for zoning. Next item is the Public Works Department, and that'll be the monthly report. That'll be a short report.
Good afternoon. Monthly report for October 2011 has been submitted for your review. I know it's November, but finally today we will have the resurfacing finished for Greenacre due to all the rain that we had in September and October. Everything's going well. We had some networking opportunities with police chief and fire chief as far as equipment storage and expanding some parking lot areas. And also at the police department, we repaired the security gate area, and our salt dome is full of salt. Those are basically the highlights of my report.
I'm glad we're not the Northeast and not dipping into that salt supply already, so we've got good weather to clean up the leaves, and hopefully you guys are making good time these days.
Yes.
Looking along with the bids on the recycling place.
Bids were advertised as authorized.
Right.
And I know of 2 vendors locally that have secured the bids, a bid packet.
Okay, when are they due by?
I'm sorry, November 14th, I
That's
think.
what I was curious. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Monday, November 14th, 10 a.m.
Good. All right, thanks.
Great.
Next time on the agenda is the fire department. Does the fire department have anything? Nothing for the fire department. Next time is police department. Nothing for the police department. That brings us to the administrator. My first item on the agenda is a resolution appointing a representative of the Stormwater Action Group. As you recall, at the last meeting, Trustee Head had mentioned that the meeting was coming up, and that we should get an appointment to that meeting. It so happened that on October 24th, we got a letter from the county engineer talking about I'll call it the SWAG, and requesting us to appoint somebody, because each township that's a part of it gets an appointee, and I also have the appointee is not for a set term, and the trustees at any time can change that appointee, so at any point you can change it. Their first meeting is November 10th at 7 o'clock at Springfield Township Hall. And so at this point, I'll have the trustees discuss the appointee.
Hey, Greg. Did you have an interest in, with your civil engineering and 15 years of construction through the Army and through, I think you'd be wonderful. Because you know that you can go find out where the money's being spent and make sure we're getting enough back to the township. I don't know what you guys feel, but I think you'd be a natural choice in that.
That's fine. Happy to serve.
Neil, do you want to offer a motion?
Yes, I'll offer resolution 11-182, appoint representative to Stormwater Action Group, Red Huffman.
Second.
I'll call the roll, Mr. Mahoney.
Yes.
Mr. Haddad,
Yeah, I'll put Greg on it for now.
and John Genowine.
Yes.
I'm gonna go to the meeting too, so if you wanna go together, we can go together.
My next item on the resolution is authorizing myself to enter into a contract with CMWR. As you're aware of, over the last year, I've been looking at and getting proposals for updating our, I'll call it the computer system and that. And one of the things that we needed to update was our servers. And we took some proposals, and CNWR, who has done our server work for at least, I think, the last 10 years, submitted a proposal on it, and reviewing it, once again through our consultant at the time, determined that this was a good proposal, and it just needed a little bit of tweaking. And one of the highlights of it is we are going to move our servers over to the police station in a secured, I'll call it computer room, which is climate controlled and has 24/7 access, so if anything goes wrong, the technician can get into the building. You're all familiar with, no offense to Jim's office, but where the servers currently are with a home air conditioner as the cooling system, and in the summertime it really works hard, and I'm recommending that we contract with CNWR to install a new server system over at the police station and do the necessary software wiring and licenses. We need to update it anyways, the licenses for, Jim, it's the server system mail is
Outlook.
Exchange.
Callis, we're on an older version. We're not even 2008.
Is this for the police department?
Pardon me?
Departments.
This is the police and fire.
Police department.
Police and fire, right. That's where we'll be located.
And,
This is an exchange, excuse me if I can.
Oh, sorry.
This is the exchange server we're talking about. The exchange server is what handles our email. Currently, we all have server systems, and we have our own individual exchange server in our sites. And then we're going to, now with the new technology, you can put all the exchange server on one server, and fire, police, and administration will be able to access that through one server. We're not getting rid of servers, or any servers. We're going to still have or maintain our other servers for like the accounting system, and the police and fire will have their servers for their software systems, but...
And Jim, correct me in that by having all those on one server, we only have to buy one license, and the user's fees are whatever they...
Where do we get the money for this from? Does it come from
Capital.
general fund?
No, capital.
How much do we have left in our capital improvement fund for the year?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
But we looked at, and there's...
Well, let me get this right. We're in a budget process now where we're gonna be almost $1 million a year in the hole that we're gonna be using our savings for to stay afloat. And we're gonna be spending money from this fund, and we don't even know how much is in it. I mean, these things need to be set up, because that's what I get tired of, voting on stuff like this, when we don't have the answers. I want to know how much is in the capital improvement fund at this point in time. Do we have enough to cover it? Do we have enough to support it?
There's a problem. I'm guessing, I don't like to give you numbers.
That's what I'm saying, I don't like guesses either, because then we do it, then
But I know there's at least $500,000 in there.
we have $500,000 in it, so we have enough to cover this cost.
Yes.
We looked up, and I should have that number too, but before we did the resolution, we got the quotes and that, we looked up to make sure we had enough money for it. And
That's what I wanted to make sure, that there's enough money in this fund to do this right.
I should have had that number.
Just to be, the $1 million short, where's the $1 million shortfall from?
Well, if you read I apparently don't read your thing when we're doing the budgets.
I know the budgets very well.
Then,
$1
if you
million.
know the budget, did you say
Let's
that we're
stick to
using $1 million in this?
I'd like to offer resolution 11-183 to authorize the administrator to enter into a contract with CNWR for the exchange server to be located at the police station on King Road.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
I don't know yet, because I don't know all the figures, so I'm gonna say no.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
My next resolution then is a small one. It could be between $800,000 and $1,000, and it's to hire a consultant who just, as you are aware of, about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, I gave you his report. on the shortfalls of the township, and one of them was the server issue. This is a very complex move to get the servers and the licenses and the type of servers and the type of backup. That technology is always changing. And so this next resolution is to hire Mike Scrivett to oversee the installation of the servers, the software, make sure we get the right types, and he will charge us, it's $50 an hour, up to no more than $1,000 max.
Okay.
$1,000 max per total on this whole thing?
Total.
Okay, I can deal with that.
I'd like to offer Resolution 11-184, authorize administrator to enter into contract with Mike Skirvin as our IT consultant.
Thank you. Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
My next item on the agenda is a resolution 11-181 to accept and approve the Health Insurance Committee recommendations. I'll have Susan address that.
I think everything is pretty self-explanatory. We had an executive session after the last budget meeting where we went over the Health Insurance Committee's recommendation, and I have spelled that out in the resolution that you have before you. To answer a question that was raised earlier, yes, it does include a 30.7% increase. The employees will continue to pay their 10%, and the township will pay 90%.
So last year we had a 15% increase, and we had a $500,000 shortfall that we're paying back to Omarissa. I remember that, $250,000 each half. Now we're paying another 30%, so we've had a 45% increase in our health care, and we have not looked at anywhere else, because I have Jake to look at other plans and things that we can save some money on, because what are we going to be up to next year? Another 30%? We're going to be up 70%, so we're going to pay almost double for health care in 2 years.
We have looked at other plans. As you know, we can't get out of Omarissa without a 6-month.
We give them a 6-month notice, and it's a
Right.
$200,000 amount to get out of it. I think we'll save that if we go to somebody else. Toledo used to be on the same plan, they got out of it. County went on the same plan, they got out of it. Everybody went back to another company. I think we need to look into this immediately, because right now, to be upside down with this fund, and the way we're going to be running, the government's cutting all of our monies, we can't afford to keep going like this.
Well, I mean, we have looked at other companies. We looked at them last year, and we felt we couldn't afford to get out. When we went to fully insured plans, it was slightly less than what we were going to pay. You know, what it amounts to is, yes, we did pay that 15% last year. We did ask the board to kick in another $260-some thousand. That got us to a break-even point. What we're doing now is there's like a 12% trend in there, which is what normally the rates go up, and then the rest of it is to fund the reserves. Legally, we have to have reserves funded. For when we do pull out of Omarissa, if we do decide to do that, we have to have money in that reserve to pay the run out on the claims. And so that's what this is funding. So by next year, at this time, we should have enough money to get out of it if we want to without having to pay any penalties.
Because I worry about that, because when I saw those amounts too, we had a $400,000 plus fixed cost too, besides the healthcare itself, on that paper you gave us. $430,000 of just fixed costs alone.
I don't know that I have.
That was the administrative fixed cost.
Well, that also includes insurance.
Your stop loss.
I'm just saying though, that's just a big chunk of change.
So, and we have given direction to look at all possible other scenarios. The problem is 82% of whatever, it doesn't matter who we're with, 82% of the costs are claims.
I agree.
And it doesn't matter if you're with this company or that company, the claims is what drives the insurance. And we're working through the health committee trying to reduce those claims, generic drugs, over-the-counter drugs. We're actually looking for maybe next year a different method, a high deductible plan. So we are looking, and we heard you, Trustee Haddad, to look, and we are looking at this point, and we are actually going to get quotes on what other insurance companies would have charged us for this. So we have a comparison to see if this is reasonable or not. But the problem is, of that $400,000, half of it probably is costs that we couldn't control. It was insurance, that reinsurance at $75,000. That's going to be probably the same no matter who you go with. Sure, the administrations, you can look at it, we're looking at that to see if that's within reason. We're still working with to see if we can get that number lowered. We have some questions about it. So we're working on it, and we understand, we're trying to save costs. And we will report back to you on other insurance companies, and if we find that there's another method out there, we will notify Marissa and get out of it, and in 2013, we'll go with what we can.
Isn't a large portion driven by the prescription drug usage of the township employees?
That's true. We generally are on the higher side for entities our size. I think it's 500 and...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, for other insurance companies to say that they can come in and do it cheaper, if they haven't looked at our claims, the claims are the claims. I mean, we're going to spend $1.4 million in claims last year, or this year, 2011. That's quite high.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I applaud all the effort and work that's gone into the Health Insurance Committee. I know it's not an easy job, and it's certainly not exactly good news when you dive in and find out what's there, so I hope they continue to, step up to the plate and do what's necessary. Offer Resolution 11-181 to accept and approve the Health Insurance Committee recommendations.
Second.
Call the roll, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
No.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is the fiscal officer.
I'd like one more thing.
Oh, sure.
I'd like to offer a motion to direct our administrator to send an apology to the Kavad House, and that any actions that were taken on the township were not at direction of the board, but a single member.
No member did anything. We don't send a letter to the Chabad House apologizing for a safety issue where we have, by the state law, allowed 30 feet from the corner, no parking. That's where they close to the side, 30 feet from the
I'd like
corner.
to offer that motion, please.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Sure you will. They talk all the time. Break the sunshine law every day.
Mr. Zeitler, can you handle that, or?
We need a vote.
Okay.
Let me retract that. That's not this isn't a township issue as much as it is a personal issue. That the township, the township shouldn't be writing an apology letter. One of the trustees probably would be more appropriate.
Go ahead, write the letter.
Well, I want them to understand that we went out of our way to make sure that it won't happen again, and that, it was not the direction of the township board. And I certainly was shocked and disappointed when what we found out. So,
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
No.
Mr. Genowine?
yes.
I will do that. I'll give you the trustees a draft to look at before.
That'd be great.
Next item now is the fiscal officer. Turn it over to Mr. Simcoe.
Mr. Beck, can you call our couple more
Certainly.
resolutions?
Thank you. I have a couple of resolutions for your consideration. Resolution 11-179 is a transfer of appropriations. So as we get closer to the end of the year, some of our line items are getting closer to running out of money, and we're transferring within the fund. We're not asking for an increase in appropriation, but we're asking for a transfer within the fund. So overall, we're still staying within our budget, just particular line items.
All right, I'll offer motion, resolution number 11-179, transfer of appropriations.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay, of the last resolution I have, if you remember correctly, this is a transfer of funds. Last year, when we went self-insured for our dental, we had to set up a brand-new fund, and in order to get it started, we had to transfer money. That fund has been built up to a point where I can ask for the money back.
Okay.
So this resolution is transferring the money back.
Offer resolution 11-180 to transfer funds back from the fund that was there for the dental.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Thank you, I have nothing else.
Great. Do we have anyone that signed in for open discussion or hearing of the public?
Mr. Simcoe,
Oh, it's right here.
yeah.
Sorry, there you go.
Bert, Ram?
I didn't follow up, and Bert Ram, I live in Wilford. I didn't follow up on your charter bus thing we were supposed to be possibly getting on to get to a vote on it.
It'll be in the May primary, hopefully, if we pass a resolution to put it on
Okay,
the ballot.
because those buses are still coming out, and one person on a one big bus and two at a time, and this is costing a hell of a lot of money.
Tell me about it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bert.
Penny?
I'll pass.
Mr. Hayes?
I guess I have a couple of questions about this letter that you want to send. Since it was aired in the public, and I've heard different things about it, I don't know if the public knows what happened or not.
I'll tell you what happened, specifically. 2 episodes during the holidays, the holy holidays for the Jewish faith. I'm coming down because the Chabad house has services at their home. First of all, there's nothing against any religious group, but our homeowners association, which Neil's part of too, knows in our rules that we are not allowed to have any religious groups in our association. I don't care that they're there. If they want to have their services, fine. My biggest problem is that they have parking on the boulevard. The boulevard is too narrow to drive down. I came home one night, one of the cars was parked so far out, I had to go onto the median strip on the boulevard to go around the car. That was one time where I didn't call the police. The second time I came by, a gentleman opened his door, I almost took his door off and had to go on the middle of the island to go around, and that's when I called the police. And I said, somebody's got to be doing something about this parking on this boulevard because it's unsafe. We cannot get, and the fire chief specifically said, and the police chief specifically said, the road is too narrow to get a safety vehicle down in an emergency situation. This is nothing religious. It's nothing against them as a house. I don't care if Neil lived there and had a party that was lined up on the boulevard. I'd call the police. I want to make sure that there's nobody parking on that boulevard because it's a safety issue. So they both rejected it, and I'm not done talking, Mr. Gentleman. They both passed a resolution not to do anything about any boulevards. I was at Mancy's the other day specifically talking to Gus. He lives in Wildwood. Around the cul-de-sac at the end of Wildwood, they park on both sides. They can't get the school bus to make a U-turn at the end. They have to call people out of their homes to come out to move cars. This is nothing against any group, any person, or anyone. It's just safety to get vehicles through those areas. And all I wanted was signs posted in areas so people would abide by the law, so we would have safe streets. That's all.
So the police went out there?
The police went out there.
I was not out there.
Bob Austin was out there and saw the property.
Who was?
Robert Austin went out there, measured the property.
He's not the police chief.
I'm just saying, you also agreed to
Mr.
the
Austin
same,
and I consulted.
but you and I talked about safety issues about streets that are too narrow. Greg went out because Mr. Genowine and I had asked him to go out and get all the streets and boulevards and name the ones that need signs put on them, and then they voted it down. That's on the record.
I don't have the figures with me, but I think I remember them pretty accurately. Lieutenant Austin measured the roadway there.
Yes.
And it was 17 feet 6 inches. Our township parking regulations require at least 10 feet for a car to be able to pass through.
Correct.
Okay. The average car, his Taurus that was parked there, is 6 feet 4 inches. Okay? If it's parked a few inches away from the road, it still allows the 10.
When you go into the middle of that roadway and measured, it's 15 feet 3 inches because Greg measured through there himself.
Well, I think the township was very disappointed when we found that there were 4 calls, complaints from one of the trustees.
No, there was only one call.
There's 4, Mr. Haddad.
Through the years, yeah.
And, the last one, it was very upsetting to the members of the Chabad house, and they expressed their concern that they were being singled out, and so that's when we looked into it, and, we found out that Mr. Haddad didn't agree with them being in the neighborhood, didn't agree with the menorah that's out front, and didn't agree with the
Don't you dare say I
parking.
disagree with them being in the neighborhood.
Mr. Haddad, it's all on tape.
They can be in the neighborhood for all they want. All my problem is the parking issue.
It's all on tape, Mr.
The menorah
Haddad.
problem is that it fell over the other day, and if somebody would have been hit by it...
Well, you called it long before it fell over.
I
so-
never did. Oh, it did.
You did. It's on record.
I did.
Okay, so,
All right,
thanks for
I just wanted to
clarifying that, Al.
find out, maybe I'll let the police handle that.
And they did, and they went out and talked
Still
over
had
this.
10 feet there.
Yes.
Then there was no
There's not
issue.
10 feet, Al, to pass through. You can go over there with me, I'll show you.
Well,
That's a mistake on the measuring.
I'd like to see them car parked there, and if there was 10 foot, I don't think we should have done that.
They're not 10 feet.
It was concerning, that's why we're
There's not
sending the
10 feet,
apology.
Al.
Police out there.
Come on over there when we're done, I'll drive you over there now.
Okay, well, I would like to offer a motion to adjourn.
Second.
At 4:33.
Call the roll, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Let's go over there, Al, I'll show you. You want to drive over there?
I'd like to put out that our next meeting will be the budget meeting on the